secret exit doors, talking airplanes,
50, 40, 30, 20, retard, 5.
planes backing up on their own.
Stop the madness!
Today's airplanes and airlines have more than a few tricks up their sleeve, some which you may have noticed, and some you probably didn't know existed. So today we're going to attempt to rank my top 10 airplane quirks, from onboard products.
Remember the controversial seat? The one that doesn't recline.
To structural features. Some which are quite logical, and some which are a little more head-scratching. Some you can still find in the skies today, but others, well, you may have to give Grandpa a call or visit your nearest aviation museum. Now, given the size and diversity of the global fleet, both past and present, this list could theoretically go on forever, but we don't have forever, so we're just going to stick to 10. But do comment down below if you have a good one that I missed. I also think there's a whole nother list for airport quirks, of which there are many. Let me know if you guys would be interested in that type of video. Alright, let's kick this thing off with a classic, United's Channel 9. Now, what the heck is Channel 9? Well, back in the day, you may have seen this on your armrest. Before the days of on-demand entertainment, some airlines would show movies on overhead screens, along with a number of pre-recorded music channels to jam out to. But the best music, by far, is hearing what the pilots are saying to air traffic control in real time.
United 1425, wind 200 at 4, runway 22 right at Whiskey, clear for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff, 22 right Whiskey, United 1425.
Everything from takeoff clearances to altitude changes, United allowed its passengers to tune into the radio chatter up front, which was obviously a big hit among av geeks, but also sparked the curiosity of families and business travelers alike. Now, unfortunately, you'll be hard-pressed to find Channel 9 today. Although the capability still technically exists on the pre-merger United 767 and 777 aircraft, the majority of pilots choose not to turn it on. However, keep your eyes and ears peeled because it's rumored the feature is making a comeback on some of the newer 737 MAX 9s. Alright, number 9, we're going to go with a design feature, the nose door on the 747 freighter. This thing has been memeified to no end, and for good reason. This plane's nose door gives it emotions, everything from an innocent chuckle to a conniving cackle. But in the end, it's a tremendously practical feature and one that has cemented the airplane's commercial success because it allows operators to load really long pieces of cargo that wouldn't fit through a traditional side door. Now to number 8 on our list, the Airbus Cockpit Voice Annunciator. Now, on its face, this isn't anything special. Most, if not all, of today's commercial airplanes have a system that calls out specific altitudes as the plane is coming into land. Pilots have a lot on their plate, especially during instrument approaches, and these verbal cues can help take a little bit of stress off, as the crew will be alerted when they have reached their so-called minimums, or the height at which the runway must be in sight for the crew to continue their landing.
Continue.
Now, Airbus has built in an additional call-out that reminds pilots to reduce the thrust to idle when the plane is approximately 20 feet above the
50,
ground.
40, 30, 20, retard, 5.
So to all my Americans out there that may be triggered by the R word, don't become an Airbus pilot. Number 7, this one is courtesy of our British and French friends, the Concorde Droop Nose. Flying supersonic, as the Concorde did, imposes all sorts of demands on an airframe, and as such, this thing had to have an insanely aerodynamic design, which effectively enabled it to cut through the air like a knife. Well, turns out the position of the nose required to efficiently achieve supersonic flight limited the pilot's vision on the ground, so engineers designed the nose to move into a lower position, 12.5 degrees to be exact, for taxi, takeoff, and landing. And once again, the internet couldn't help itself. Now, before we move on to number 6, I want to hit you guys with a quick bonus quirk. Now, when we talk about the Concorde, it would be a crime not to also discuss the Concorde's Russian counterpart, the Tupolev 144. Now, this thing was incredibly quirky. In fact, it might deserve its own separate video. But one of the standout features was the retractable mini wings right on top of the cockpit. This is a bit of a band-aid feature to help the airplane achieve greater lift at slower airspeeds, as the main wings weren't as well optimized as Concorde's. But, like the Concorde, we can see a striking resemblance between the plane and a certain breed of dog. Alright, for number 6, we head back on board a modern-day aircraft, the Finnair A350, for a classic minimalist Nordic invention. The business class seat that doesn't recline, but still turns into a lie-flat bed.
If you look at Nordic design principles, it's only the essential that should exist.
Now, this was a bold strategy indeed, but it generated a lot of buzz for the airline, and most passengers have been complimentary of the seat. It seems to have been a net win for the official airline of Santa Claus. For number 5, we have the tail stand, a little pole that prevents planes from tipping over during loading and unloading. Now, some planes are more susceptible to tipping than others, specifically the Boeing 737-900 due to its longer length and the size and position of the main landing gear. So imagine our 737 is pulling into the gate as a balanced seesaw. As soon as those passengers start filing out of the front of the plane, that left side of the seesaw becomes lighter, and if there's not support in the back, aka our tail stand, the thing may tip. Number 4, you guessed it, the tail cone exit door on the MD-80, DC-9, and 717. In emergency situations, the tail cone could literally pop off the back of the plane, revealing an exit door that could be inflated for safe exit down to the ground. Now, don't get me wrong, it's always nice to have another escape route to get more passengers off the plane quicker in emergencies, but this feature caused the airlines a bit of a headache over the years. Not only did the tail cone inadvertently fall off and injure ground staff, but in one of the emergencies it was actually needed, it was deemed inoperable and likely contributed to the deaths of multiple people. However, there were also instances where it was successfully deployed and potentially saved lives. Number 3 takes us to the mystical world of single-decker quad jets. Now, the Airbus A340 is quirky enough as is, but Lufthansa, the German flag carrier, added another layer of quirkiness to its Dash 600 fleet. This set of stairs leads to the economy class lavatories, which are situated in the cargo hold. This configuration has some pretty interesting advantages for the airline and for passengers. The first and most obvious one is that you can fit more seats on the main deck. And the second one is less noise and distraction to passengers associated with flushing and congregating around the lavatories mid-flight. Now, of course, Lufthansa gave up some cargo capacity to do this, but the A340 has a ton of cargo space. So I guess it was worth more to Lufthansa just to sell extra tickets as opposed to trying to fill that cavernous belly with incremental cargo. Plus, it's no secret they have a dedicated cargo fleet, so it's not like they're hurting for cargo capacity. And just like that, we're down to our final 2, and this one never gets old. It's called the power back, and it's when planes go backwards under their own power. Now, how on earth is this possible? Well, it involves the thrust reversers, which are typically used to help slow the plane after landing. On propeller planes, it simply involves changing the pitch or the angle of the propeller so the thrust is directed forward instead of backwards. Now, as pretty much all of today's commercial planes have thrust reversers, they're technically capable of this maneuver, and some US airlines used to use it, but it's very uncommon nowadays as it consumes more fuel and increases the risk of foreign object ingestion, especially for engines mounted below the wing. So if there's a tug vehicle available, chances are that's how you're going to be pushed back. Hey, if you're still here, thank you for sticking around for what I believe to be one of the most bizarre commercial aircraft ever created. This is the Soviet-made Ilyushin 86 and 96. Now, this is a single-decker plane, but it's got multiple onboard elevators big enough to shuttle service carts and people between the main deck and cargo hold. But just check out this journey from the lower deck to the main deck that was captured beautifully by the World Aviation Channel. So the main reason it had these elevators is because the galley was in the cargo hold, but supposedly the plane could also be boarded via the cargo hold, which I've never actually seen done in the commercial context, but I've seen Putin do it on his VIP Ilyushin, so it definitely exists. If you're feeling adventurous, you can book a ticket on the world's last passenger Ilyushin 96, which just returned home to Cuba to presumably operate transatlantic flights for Cubana in the near future. So that's it, guys. That rounds off our list, 10 quirks. I hope that list met your standards for quirkiness, and if it didn't, let me know what you think is quirkier, because I can assure you I've only seen a fraction of probably what is a very unusual spectrum of various features on airplanes around the world. But thank you so much for coming along with me today. I know it's a different type of video than I usually do, but I thought it was really fun to make, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you all have a great one. Safe travels wherever you're going to, and see you in the next one.